our live stream today where we will be discussing the importance of implementing a digital first culture and strategies for our CIOs that are joining us today. I am Megan Seaton. I am the Business Development Manager at Avero Advisors, where we specialize in digital transformation projects, including ERP modernization and IT strategic planning. I am joined by our esteemed CEO, Mr. Abhijit Varakar. Good morning, AV. How are you?
Morning. Happy Wednesday.
Yes,
I'm doing good.
happy live day,
Happy
right?
Live Day. Yeah.
In a minute, I will get AV to introduce himself and tell a little bit about his background and how Avero came to fruition. But today, we're going to dive deep into what it means to build a digital first culture and how CIOs can lead those initiatives. So, AV, I'm going to turn it over to you real quick. I think it would be important for our viewers to understand how Avero was started and a little bit more about your background, just because we haven't discussed it in a while.
Yeah. So, I've been in the government consulting world for almost 20 years, a long time, and sort of fell into it because, my background is technology, is accounting and finance, but I also have done a lot of tech stuff. Like I started a web design company in 1998, 99 when no one had computers in my hometown. And, I've always had that bent of mind. So, uh, ERP consulting and strategic planning sort of allows me to marry those two sides of my brain. My
Mhm.
technical interests and my, training in accounting and finance, that really is what we do here. And started Avero to serve clients that are modernizing their technology, modernizing their ERP systems, and generally want to modernize the way they do business with their communities, with how they do business internally. And that's sort of been a really good career path for me over the last, again, almost 20 years. And it's very fulfilling for those that want to solve problems every day, that are service minded and want to do the right thing for their clients. So, again, we're looking for people to join our team. And if that sounds like you, go ahead and reach out to us. So that's us, and that brings us to what today's topic, right? Is how do you build a digital first culture? So I've seen this now over a long time. Um, of course, there's other people that have more longer exposure to the industry, but in the last 20 years or so, uh, the meaning of digital first has changed. Obviously, right?
Yes.
20 years ago, it was what do we have on premise? How do we keep it up? How do we have a capital improvement plan to make sure that we're um, not in an obsolete situation? And we've seen that right in the last 6 7 years. People that didn't pay attention to long-term planning, didn't pay attention to effectively managing their capital expenditures on technology, were suddenly in a really bad position where in some cases it was defined as the ox is in the ditch, right? It's
Right.
you need to do some major expending to pull yourself out of this obsolete state. And they were, small and large counties and cities that really hadn't paid attention to what's next. They hadn't paid attention to how do you go from uh, you know a 1980s infrastructure and architecture and systems to early 2000s. We're not even talking 2016 or 2020. How do you get more modernized? And that sort of is the bigger challenge for most of the CIOs that we encounter, either as clients or mostly as prospects, that are looking for ways to quickly modernize while not putting too much pressure on their um, cities or counties or agencies' financials. So that's the reality. And building a digital first culture sounds good, but on the ground, there's a lot of moving parts, lots of things to consider that can actually help you um, bring your agency into the 21st century or beyond.
Yeah. Well, it's a buzzword, right? Digital first culture. What does that
Mhm.
mean? What does it mean in terms of your organization as a whole. What does it mean in terms of your citizens and those that you're serving, from a customer experience um, standpoint? So I think it's more than just adopting technologies, right? I think
Hmm.
it's about prioritizing these digital solutions at the core of your business strategy, but you have to have a business strategy first. So my first question was, what does digital first culture mean to you in the terms, well, maybe from a CIO standpoint, what should it mean and how can they cultivate this digital first mindset?
I think it all comes down to learning about what your customers want. And by customers, I mean, as a CIO, of course, your first job is to keep your organization secure, but also you need to facilitate the provision of the tools that people want to do their jobs. So, we grew up in a digital first environment, right? We had laptops and iPhones, and we expect as a workforce to have these tools at our disposal that allow us to do our jobs better. And when you go into an obsolete organization and you don't have those tools, you don't feel empowered to do the work. If you're
Mhm.
being made to work on an old green screen system where you have to study and remember command prompts, um, that's not what they're teaching in school these days. That's not what you're seeing online these days. You can't get trained on those things. So it's very discouraging. So digital first culture and outlook from a CIO's perspective needs to start, in my opinion. I've never been a CIO, but I've worked with a lot of them. It needs to come from what the customer wants. What do they expect? Yes, of course, they expect security. They expect um, high speed internet. You're in an enterprise. Of course, you expect those things. You expect nice new computers, and you expect mobility to be able to do work from anywhere. Uh, so once you have that baseline set in your organization, then what happens is you need to pay attention to what the customer wants. What do your internal customer wants, and what do your ultimate clients need, right? As a city CIO or a county CIO, what does the taxpayer want? Do they want more access to information? Do they want easier access to services? Do they want more digital um, services being offered without having to line up at City Hall? You need to have a keen eye and an ear for what your various sets of customers want. Your executives, what do they want, right? They're not the ones that are in their ERP systems every day, but they want emails to work efficiently, but they also want quick access to data when it's needed, so that they can make effective and data focused decisions, data based decisions. So
So
it can mean a lot of different things. Sorry, but to bring it back, listen to your customers and let that drive your what it means to be digital first in your
right.
organization.
And how should leaders specifically address these skills gaps in their teams? And more specifically, how does Avero Advisors help manage the change that comes with these gaps in skills?
That's a tough one because
Mm.
if you haven't kept up, you can't suddenly be expected to keep up,
Right.
right? And when you say skill gap, it shows up in different ways, right? If you are running again a green screen system that was built in the 70s and 80s, and that's what you've been using for the last 30 years, now going to a SaaS based Windows environment, you know, point and click type of system that, if you set it up right, does a lot of the work for you. How do you? It should be less work to me and you. It's less work, but to that person who knows the one system, it's a lot of work to bring them to a modern solution. So change management plays a big role, and we can apply a lot of theory. ProSci, we've got ProSci certified managers. We've got real experts in the project management philosophy that puts a lot of emphasis on change management. How do you get those folks to understand that change of this kind is difficult It's probably the most difficult thing they'll do in their career, and that is important for the organization. Um, and then it becomes, how do you sell this on an
Mhm.
ongoing basis? Is it about legacy? Is it about making the organization better? Different people respond to different things, but the basic philosophy of change management, uh, applies to all of these situations. So filling those gaps is really important. So great question.
Sure. Are there strategies that CIOs can deploy to foster this mindset of a digital first culture?
I mean, it needs to come from the CIO's office.
Right.
They need to have a clear idea themselves of what it means. But again, that comes from listening to the customers and paying attention to where the organization is going. Where does the city manager want to take it? Where does the council legislature want to take it? And take your cues and clues from that. You know, you can't get bogged down in 20-year-old technology that only you know how to run and you're the expert at a certain thing. That's going to be the CIO's downfall, because your job is to look ahead of all of the executives in your organization. The CIO's office has the most leeway to be forward thinking, to try new things out, to listen to their customers. And of course, I'm saying that from a baseline of having set the right, infrastructure, the right baselines, the right security. Once you have all of that in place, the right people, the right automations, the backups, all of that is very important. But once you have that done, you need to look forward. You need to look ahead to what's coming. So the strategies to promote change, really, you need to have a good understanding, and the CIO is in a great position to dictate those changes. Right? People are looking for new ways to do their work. People are looking for new tools. People are looking, smart people that are in every client organization we go to, um, they're just looking for ways to do this better. And the CIO's office needs to be the go-to place for vetting new ideas, to try out new products, to try out new methods. Um, and if the CIO's office or the IT department is too busy doing our day jobs,
Hmm.
they're not necessarily doing the job of a CIO.
Right.
Um,
I do think they are in a unique position to sort of break
mhm.
down these silos and break through the noise of we only deal with the blinky lights, right? They should break down the silos and ask all of their department heads, hey, what do you need from us? Or what is the vision to help your day job run a little bit more efficiently and effectively? So, with that being said, I do think it starts with this, and we've talked about this before, this sort of executive alignment, right?
Mhm.
Let's get all the department heads in a room and talk about your pain points. And CIOs, like you mentioned, can lead that initiative. Guys, I'm sorry, my voice is echoing over here and it's really throwing me off. So I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I'm not sure what's going on, and I do
It's just you.
apologize. It's just me. But furthermore, how do ERP systems play a role in supporting this sort of digital first culture, or how can they?
I mean, it's the foundation of any organization, or should be, right? We just came from a meeting where
Hmm.
they have had a legacy system. It's core financials, utility billing, no purchasing function. They're doing everything on paper. So is the system working for you, or are you working for the system? It's the other way around, right? And they have this massive need to modernize. They don't have enough people, and not doing anything costs them more than actually going out and buying, ERPs, a new system, consulting services. So it becomes the foundation of your digital transformation. And again, going back to what does that mean to every organization? What does it mean for the CIO? You can't look at it as we're just replacing the accounting system. You can't look at it as we're just buying a new purchasing system. It's just this one thing. You can't look at it as we're just upgrading from, an older system to a newer system. No, this is a massive cultural
Yes.
transformation that you're about to take on. So the clients that understand that this is um, and again, I'll go back to my old example. This is like building a school. This is like building a police station. The amount of political turmoil that will come from this internally is about the same. You're going to ruffle feathers. You're going to make people unhappy about being a part of this project. So you're going to have to go fight for dollars with your council or commission. So how is this different, right? And
Mhm.
the other thing is, how is this different from building a new extension to the greenway or building a new park? You wouldn't do it without a consulting engineering firm coming in and telling you how this should go, even though you have an engineering department. So this conception that this is just a software product project, this is just IT, or two IT people can handle this, is horribly wrong,
Mhm.
because we've seen these things go sideways and take, you know, 10 years to not get resolved. You're paying the vendor because it's now SaaS, and you've fallen for this um, discount that they offered you, and you signed the contract. So all of these bad things can happen as you take on these massive projects. So back to your question, how does ERP help? It's the
Mhm.
foundational element of everything. It's going to touch all your departments, and it's going to force you to do things like modernize your infrastructure. Because if you want to go to the cloud, and if you're running residential grade internet at your city or county building, you're not getting to the cloud. You're not going to use SaaS products. So now you're talking about upgrading infrastructure. You're talking about having redundant sources of your bandwidth coming in.
Mhm.
So it changes everything. An ERP project is probably the best thing and the worst thing to happen to organizations, the implementation phase, because at the end of it, you have a much better organization overall, not just better financial processes or not just better HR processes. Your organization as a whole wins. So, uh, CIOs need to look at that as the longest pole in the tent. Of course, there's other things that go around it, but once you take on an ERP project, you better have your ducks in a row, uh, so it doesn't fail from a technical infrastructure perspective.
Well, and two, you have better data, right? When your ERP systems are up to par, right? You have better data to measure where your organization is at and where you need to be in the future. So, can you talk a little bit about data and how we measure outcomes to get to this sort of digital first culture?
Yeah, another question that was posed to us yesterday, right? One is,
Hmm.
of course, it was from a finance director. Um, so they asked us, how do you measure the ROI, or can you measure
Right.
ROI? So there's several different ways of measuring the success of a project, and several different ways of measuring the um, effectiveness of a new ERP system, right? The simplest thing is, it would take you, for that particular client that doesn't have a purchasing module or a system, they're doing everything on paper, right? What did they say? Someone types this requisition in a Word doc, which is
Yes.
better than what I've seen, where they had a form that would then go to in inner office mail to the director, to someone else, then to budget to check the budget, and then it would take weeks to get a PO done. Now, think of how many hours you're spending on cutting that PO, how many mistakes could possibly be made, and you're holding up a project, right? You're trying to buy something, a box of pencils or a new software system. Now it's taking you 3 weeks to get a PO, so work stops. So when you get a new system, that process, I've seen it go from 2 weeks to 2 hours, and you've just saved yourself 2 weeks. So how do you measure that? That's immeasurable, right? But you can also put assumptions to it and say 2 weeks probably took us $2,000. I'm not even kidding, right? If you add up the
Mhm.
number of hours that you're paying a certain person to run around and get things signed, time is money. So you can shrink that to 2 hours and get it all automated, and you saved yourself $2,000. On an ROI perspective, from an ROI perspective, it's difficult because in the private sector, you can really tie an ERP deployment to profits. How quickly can you, because of a new system, turn inventory? How quickly can you bring a new client on? How quickly can you sell something? How quickly can you collect money for goods sold? easy to define the ROI because you can quickly see that your income changed or profits changed based on a certain system. For government, you have to make assumptions because they are not in the business of making money, but they can be saving money, they can be doing things more efficiently. So a lot of assumptions can come into play. And on the third thing, um, how do you measure data and the
Mhm.
value of data? It's again immeasurable. As an executive, I would love to have a dashboard that tells me, how much money is in the bank today, how much did we collect in property taxes today, what the if I have variable rate debt, what's the current market rate, and what's that going to do to my payables next month. Those kind of dashboards are invaluable. If you're, for example, a public works director, you want to know, you know, how much salt is in my um, storage because there's a big snowstorm coming tomorrow or next week. So without having to ask somebody to build your reports and without having to wait for that information, it's invaluable to have, and that can be done if you've done an ERP implementation well that takes into account dashboarding and business intelligence and analytics.
I know we need to wrap up here shortly, but really quick, just a few key nuggets for our CIOs specifically that are listening today. I think building a digital first culture is an ongoing journey, right? Things change. But I do think number one, developing a clear vision and strategy, and also embracing change is the only thing that's constant. What are your key nuggets, AV, for our CIOs who are listening today?
Listen to your customers.
There you go.
You're you know I think that's the number one thing, because you can sit in your office and think about change and modernization all you want, um, but if you're not listening to your customer, you're not getting anywhere. Second thing I would say is, I also often hear there's no funding. We
Right.
don't have the money for this. Go ask for it. Make a business case. Sell it. One of the big jobs of a CIO today and going forward is going to be a sales job. Everyone wants what you have. Everyone thinks you should do better, and you can't be in this. We don't have the money. I can't go ask for it because they're gonna say no. Everybody understands a good business case. Everyone doesn't understand technology. So it's the CIO's job to translate that to their finance directors, to their councils, to legislatures, um, so that they can see it in an output, an outcome format, and then you'll have your funding. So some salesmanship, some tact, and understanding of your customer will go a long way.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me today, guys. We go live every Wednesday around 10 a.m. Please join us and please reach out to us on social media if there is anything you would like to hear about or any topic you would like us to cover. But thank you for your time today, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Megan. Bye.
Bye.